to episode 170 of Coffee and Co-Read, your source for all things literary with Kristen
and Catherine, where we believe there's nothing better than a hot coffee and an awesome book. Join us for our virtual book club where we take one book a month and dive into all of the drama, adventure, and romance we can find. Hey, Kristen.
Hi, Catherine.
So, to keep our coffee chats rolling, we figured we'd talk about coffee shops. We kind of talked about coffee shops last week, but going to them rather than working at them. So, yes. Kristen, do you have any favorite coffee shops? Do you go to them often? What is your order? What are your thoughts on coffee shops?
So, I actually have, like, I want to call it, like, a love-hate relationship with coffee shops, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, like, understanding that we used to work at one
yeah,
means that I have a respect for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I still have, like, just, I don't know, I get annoyed at some of their practices.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, and I have found, actually, don't judge me for this. So, I used to have, like, a routine where, so I have a Keurig at school that I brew most of my coffee for the day with, but a couple of days a week, usually Monday and Friday, because Monday I need something to get me going, and Friday is my congratulations, you've made it through the week. I would go to Starbucks and get a latte, and I just found that, like, I was spending, like, because I'd also get a breakfast sandwich, so I was spending, like, $18 on, like, $18 to $20 on a coffee and a sandwich, like, twice a week. So I was spending, like, almost $40 a week just on coffee. And I was just like, that's a lot. So I've switched I've switched to McDonald's now.
Okay.
So now I'll go to McDonald's and get a coffee every Monday and Friday. And so, like, it's different, but I'm spending less money. And I don't hate McDonald's coffee.
Yeah.
So.
Like, what kind of, like, were you just getting a coffee at Starbucks, or would you get a latte?
No, I would get a latte.
Yeah.
So I get a venti latte with an extra shot of espresso, because also I'm annoyed. Starbucks they rip you off because their grande latte drinks, anytime you get a latte with espresso in it at Starbucks, if you get a grande, it has 2 shots of espresso in it. If you get a venti, it also has 2 shots of espresso in it.
Oh.
Yeah.
What? So does the tall also have 2, or is that one?
No, a tall has, like, I guess a ristretto shot, sort of the way.
Yeah, we did it.
Yeah, I think, but, like, it's not, or maybe it has a single. I'm not 100% sure because I never get a small one, a tall.
Yeah.
I always get either a grande or a venti. So
yeah.
But that means that, so if you're getting a regular latte, that means that you are getting more milk in a venti, because it's the same amount of coffee. So it's 16 ounces versus 20 ounces. It's the same amount of coffee. That means you're getting 4 extra ounces of milk.
Yeah.
So you're paying for only 4 extra ounces of milk when you pay for your latte. And in my brain, that means it's not going to taste the same.
Well, yeah, it won't, because it's watered down. It's milked down, but watered down. It's a completely different combination.
Yeah, and then on top of that, if you order a latte with syrup in it, they also increase the amount of syrup that goes in, like, so if you're getting, like, a vanilla latte or whatever, then they're putting more vanilla in the venti than they are in the grande. So you're getting more syrup, more milk, same amount of coffee. And I'm just annoyed at that, because you're literally, effectively, if you try a grande and you're like, oh, I really like this, and then you get a venti because you really like it,
Yeah.
It's not going to be the same drink.
Yeah, that's a wild choice.
Yeah. So I'm just angry about it.
Yeah, that's completely fair.
Therefore, whenever, and I'm angry about it, and therefore I'm giving them more money because,
Yeah.
they will,
well, because then you have to ask for the extra shot. That costs more
yes,
too.
yeah.
But it does actually taste the way the grande tastes.
Yes. So whenever I get a Ventier, get an extra shot of espresso in it. So yeah, I'm giving them more money, which is annoying on my part. But at the same time, I feel like I have to, or else my drink won't taste right.
No, completely get that.
So, anyway.
Yeah. So you just so now your routine is just a regular hot coffee, you don't get any of the, like, I know Tim Hortons does what they call lattes. Does McDonald's do that too? I can't remember.
They do.
But you just get the coffee, do you?
I just get a black coffee.
Fair. I just find most coffee shops, their coffee isn't dark enough for me. So, for like what I want it to taste like, so I have to add espresso to it anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just get espresso over ice. No matter what coffee shop I go to. That's my order now. Summer, winter, all year round. I'm an iced coffee girly.
Are you? Like full-on iced coffee?
Well, espresso over ice. Just not warm coffee from places. Because I just find the taste isn't what I want unless it's like a specific dark roast.
Right.
So, or I guess I could just get, I don't even know what, like just espresso, but then it doesn't last long enough when it's just a hot espresso.
Yes, no, you're right. Because then you has few sips and it's gone.
Yeah. It's perfect for like a dessert after a nice meal. But
yeah, when you want like a full-on coffee, like a full glass of coffee. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's our coffee orders, I guess. I don't go to coffee shops, I feel like, as much as I used to. Like, when I was younger, you'd go on a date, or you'd go to study with your friends. And now I'm like, nah. I go through the drive-thru now.
Yeah. But on top of that, too, like, we don't, like, I will say, I do go, like, not necessarily coffee shops, but either Starbucks or McDonald's. I do go frequently. Only because I'm usually, like, so either I'll do it before I go to work.
Yeah.
Or I'll do it, like, because my oldest child swims super early in the morning sometimes. So that requires me to be up early. And so I'll stop. I'm not going to wait for coffee at home. I'll stop and make it. I'll stop and get it instead of making it at home.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I do find that I do get it still quite a bit. But again, I always drive through. I never go in and sit down. Like,
yeah, I don't know the last time I sat in a coffee shop.
No. I do.
Oh, we sat in a coffee shop together. Oh, we're so cute.
Yeah.
Bringing it back to us.
Yeah, as always.
Read Iron Flame.
Iron Flame, yep.
Yeah, the day it came out.
We did, yeah. I actually told some friends, some other swim moms, that we did that. And they were like, oh my god, we should do that. And I was like, yes, no, you really should. It's great. Yeah. So I guess we'll get into Kingdom of Ash, because it's gonna be a riveting episode. I can tell.
Yeah, definitely. So
just a heads up.
Yes.
This is not a spoiler-free zone, and things might get saucy. I don't think they do, but maybe they will.
Yeah, I can't recall that they do, but who knows. So it's our 5th week, and we're doing chapters 51 to 61. Last week, luckily, a shit ton of people came together, so there's not a huge update from them.
It's not as much, yeah.
Yeah, so our main crew of Aelin, Rowan, Lorcan, Elide, Gavriel, and Fenris met up with Kale, Irene, Sartak,
Nezrin,
and
Hussar.
Yeah. So they're all together now, and they discuss their battle plans for Annielle and how they're going to save it. And Aelin has to put on a show, or they won't follow her to Terrasen, basically.
We're all in this together.
Dorian and Manon, they went to Eelway, and then everybody had been killed, and the 13 dug graves for them.
Mm-hmm.
Because Manon kind of feels that it's her responsibility because they were delayed because of the Iron Teeth attacking them.
Which was her fault.
Yeah. And I guess Dorian spoke with Keltane, and Manon's like, "You're going to Morath." Is there anything else, really? Yeah. He's like, "Of course I am. This was my plan all along." And she's like, "Ah!" And then Adian and Lysandra and crew, they're in a battle. The lines are falling. Lysandra thinks of how useless... Yeah, she thinks of how useless Adian says she is, so she turns into the queen to rally the forces, and then she gets attacked, and Adian runs towards her and realizes that he didn't mean anything he's ever said to her, and he feels bad.
Rightfully so.
Yes. So, I think that's it, which is much shorter than most weeks. I'm cool with it.
Yes.
But we start this week in Lorcan's point of view, and he doesn't really care that they're like joining a battle tomorrow. He is thinking about how Maeve is actually Valg, because Aelin and Co. finally were told that last week.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
even
that was
Aelin
important.
kind of knew anyway.
Yeah, she suspected. So he's just thinking, like, he thought he was in love with her. He wanted to have sex with her. Like, he offered himself to her. And she laughed at him. And he thought that his gifts were matching with hers. But he thinks maybe Hellas wanted him to kill her. I'm like, you can't just completely change the narrative because you find out she's Valg. Like, you can't just be like, I guess, maybe he misunderstood the god, sure. But, like, that's a big misunderstanding.
Yes. Oh, he thought the god told me I loved her. Actually, no, wait. That's
Kill
not
her.
what it is. Kill her instead, please.
So, Elide comes over to him and says that they're leaving. And he just tells her that he didn't know. And she says they have bigger things to worry about because obviously there's battle tomorrow.
Yeah.
And she asks him if he's looking for absolution. And he served her for 500 years. And he just thought that she was immortal and cold. And she's like, well, is that any better? Like, to have served someone who you thought was, like, that cold? Is that any different than realizing she's Valg? And he says that to live, like, he tells her that, like, living millennia really changes you. And you just develop into being cold. Which is a super big trope in, like, most of the, like, vampire books. She just says it doesn't matter because he loved her. And he answers that he didn't love her. He thought he did, but he didn't. And asks why she can't let it go. And she wants to know how he could love a monster because it'll help her figure out how she did the same.
Oh! That is so rude.
It is. And he just thinks, and this is actually kind of devastating, he just thinks that he's never had anyone love him before.
Oh.
It is so sad. And, like, as much as I have issues with him, that is heartbreaking. And then she continues, and she asks if it's a sickness or if there's something broken in him. And he tries to reach for her. And she says the blood oath means nothing that he gave to Aelin. He's immortal and she's human, so she's gonna die.
I mean, she's not wrong.
No, 100%. He snarls and says that she's jealous, and that's what's eating away at her. And she's like, of Maeve, because she's saying, no, I'm not. But she says, the only thing she's jealous of is that Maeve is rid of him. And she wishes she was. And
can I just... Okay. I understand what Lorcan did is wrong. However, I feel bad. Like, Elide has taken it really far. She's, like, roasting him every chance she gets.
Yeah.
And, like, I feel bad, like...
Well, he did it in the first place because he thought that they were being attacked and he wanted Maeve to come and, like, help. So, like, I don't know. I just feel like she's being as bad as Aelin.
Yes.
And I'm like, why do we have to have two relationships that are like this? The book. It's just not necessary. But yeah, she's being a complete ass. But he tells her he's sorry for all of it. And she says that she doesn't care. And she says...
Yes, she does.
She doesn't care if he walks off the battlefield tomorrow.
Whoa.
And you're like, why?
That was unnecessary. Completely
Unnecessary. Like, he just found out that for 500 years he was serving a Val. Like, that's gonna do something to him. And now you're like, and I don't care if you die tomorrow. I actually would prefer it. It's just not necessary.
No, it's mean and cold-hearted. And I understand she was hurt, but, like, it's not necessary.
It's the same thing as Aelin throwing her out into the snow and telling her she's useless. Like...
Yeah. I don't care if you die.
Yeah. It's awful.
Yeah.
So we go to Elide's point of view, and she's like, there's no way I'm jealous. And then Gavriel tells her that she should have just ignored him, because she may as well have kicked him while he was down. Which is what we think.
Mm-hmm.
And she says it's none of his business. And Gavriel says he's never seen him apologize, even to Maeve. And she answers that doesn't mean she should forgive him. Which, like, I agree with that statement. But I think it does mean something that he has apologized to her. And she could actually think about it for a second. Or have cared about it, rather than just tell him he should die.
Yeah. Yeah. I just don't really know what to say because, like, as much as I love Elide, I don't like how she's been treating him. He's been doing his best.
Yeah. Everything he's doing is for her.
And, like, as opposed to Aelin, who's just being a stubborn asshole, like, Lorcan is literally everything he's done has been to try and help her and save her. So, like, I don't know.
Lorcan is like the Lysandra in this situation.
Yes.
Which is funny to me. Yeah, it's a bit much. And I know Elide's also, I guess, reeling from figuring out that Maeve was Valg. And she probably is jealous and, like, how the fuck could he love a monster? But it's a bit much. You can keep some thoughts inside of your head until you've processed them.
Yes.
Gavriel agrees that she doesn't need to forgive him just because he apologized, but he says that he went to save Aelin for her, knowing that she was human and that she'll die before him, I guess. And she thinks that she knows that, and she knew it when he took the oath, and she wanted to be angry for longer. But now she's mad at herself. And the last thing she told him was a lie. And I'm like, well, maybe. I give her a tiny, tiny bit more grace than Aelin for the sole fact that she's not been in battle. She's not been in war. Maybe she doesn't realize that, like, it's a real possibility that he could die tomorrow. Like, maybe she's just a bit naive in this moment. But to actually think the words, I didn't mean what I said to him, when you told him that you don't care if he lives or dies tomorrow. You should do something about it and tell him that.
Yeah.
But, like I said, I do think she's a bit naive about the realities of war.
I guess. I don't think that's an excuse, though, for I hope you die.
No, I don't either. I think that if she had been through a battle before, realizing this moment to herself, I feel like she would talk to him before he went out and been like, sorry,
I didn't mean that.
I didn't mean that. I'm still mad at you, but I don't want you to die. You know? There's levels. Like, she doesn't need to, like, go to him and say, I love you so much. She could be like, hey, I'm still pissed, but I don't
please
want
try
you
and
to
stay
die.
alive.
Yeah. Anyway, she doesn't do that. Ugh, stupid. Nezrin's point of view, they send 20 rooks with KL, Aelin, and KoA, and more healers back to the keep. And Nezrin, I guess, is still in the encampment with the rest of them. Borte is there talking to her, and she says that she wants to fight with the Fae, and Yeren overhears her and says that she's mooning over the Fae, but she says that they'll teach her their ways, and she'll use it during the gathering, and then he'll be sorry. And he just comes back and says that she's going to be his wife by then, so she can't kill him. And she says, she says she'll have to kill him another time then. And he agrees. And then he walks over to her and whispers something. And she blushes for several minutes as he walks away. You're like, okay.
What did he say?
I want to know.
It was definitely something really filthy.
Oh, 100%. But that makes me want to know even more.
For that long? I know. Yeah. I'm like, what did you say, dude? Like, masterclass in dirty talk there.
Yeah. Sartak comes over then, and Borte walks away. And Yeren, who didn't walk away very far, they see him just, like, catch up to her and follow after her. And Sartak says that, like, they're obviously clear about it all now. And Nezrin's just like, no, I am more confused than ever. But Sartak says the people on either side of their tent aren't confused. And we're like, whoa.
Whoa.
They've figured it out. And I kind of love the relationship. I love a little, like, story of their entire timeline.
Yeah.
Because they're, like, so antagonistic, but clearly care about each other. Sartak says that war makes things urgent, and then he tells her to come to bed. And she says that they have a battle tomorrow, and he says that that makes him want to hold her even more, which is just so sweet. And then he's like, and maybe some other things, which is cute. We go to Manon's point of view now, and oh wait, last week they went to talk to the Iron Teeth, right?
They did, yes. They went to talk to Petra Blueblood.
Yes. Yeah, so that's where we're coming back from. And they meet back up with the Crocans, and Bronwyn asks what happened, and she says that the Iron Teeth will decide who they wish to be. And Bronwyn just says they shouldn't have hoped then, because they thought that, I guess, she was going to come back with an Iron Teeth force with her.
Yeah.
Obviously not the case. Manon sits by Glennis's fire, and Glennis tells her that they're going to their home hearths in the morning. And Manon asks her if she thinks that Iron Teeth can change. And Glennis says Manon would know best. So Manon asks if Rhiannon thought her half-sister thought they could change. And she thinks to herself if she thought that Manon could change herself. And we kind of get a bit of, like, what Rhiannon was like. So Glennis says that Rhiannon believed that, like, they could change, and she actually wanted to rule the Wastes with Manon as, like, her co-ruler. That's a thing.
Right, yes, yeah.
And she would actually preach about uniting the witches. And some of the Crocans used to actually think she was a fool for her dream and didn't really like her, which Glennis is like, you wouldn't believe it now the way they're talking about her, but they actually used to find her really annoying.
Sin.
Which is kind of funny because, like, you know.
We all do it.
Yeah, exactly. And they're all, like, pissed at Manon, and they're, like, you're being a bit hypocritical. Yeah. So Rhiannon basically died for that future, but she believed it with every fiber of her being. Astrid comes over and brings Manon food and says that the Iron Teeth will turn and join them. But Sorrel, it kind of just like shrugs, and it's implied that she's not so sure. So we go over to Dorian's point of view, and he thinks of the twisted kingdom he inherited from his father and Erewhon. And being in the Farian Gap really, like, I guess drove it home because his father is the one that kind of like had that created with Erewhon. And he thinks he can make Aderlin better, and Damaris warms at the truth in that he can make it better. So, like, that's his true statement, I guess, that he can make Aderlin better.
I mean, not hard.
That's really true.
Like, Aderlin is a dumpster fire right now.
Exactly.
Not hard to make it a little bit better.
So, he becomes a crow because he thinks he needs to learn how to fly. So, he starts learning to fly. We go to Lysandra's point of view. And she wakes up in a tent and her thigh's on fire. And Aelin is there, and he tells her that they yielded Paranth and have been on the run for 2 days. And they're 3 days away from Orinth, but there's a storm behind them that slowed down Morath so they could, like, take a night to rest instead of keep running.
Yeah.
Which is good. But he also says, like, she rallied the troops by turning into Aelin enough that they were able to retreat instead of just die there. So, thank you, Lysandra. She notices then that she's in her, like, normal body, and he says it happened when they healed her, and she asks how many people saw. And he kind of just, like, brushes it off, but then she's like, she realizes that everybody knows now. Because obviously you can't keep that secret. He says that he told everyone that Aelin is on a vital task with Rowan that they can't speak about. And I'm like, that's the truth, though. We could have said that from the beginning. Yeah. That she was like, I don't... Anyway. She says she's sorry, because obviously she thinks that this is all her fault. And he says, his big old spiel now, he says he's sorry. He says she did this for Terrasen and Aelin and was willing to die. And she pushes his hand away because he, like, took her hand while he was saying it. And she says back to him that she's been degraded and humiliated many times, but none as bad as him throwing her into the snow and calling her a lying bitch in front of their friends and allies. And she says that she was, like, she used to have to crawl for men and almost did it for him these past weeks. And it took her almost dying for him to see her as human again. And she knows that he's sorry, but it doesn't matter. And I'm like, yes, perfect. That's exactly what we were saying last week.
God.
Yeah. Because to be honest, and I don't know why, I didn't really remember this scene until I read it. Like, I didn't remember her being pissed back.
Yeah.
But I'm glad she is.
Yeah, I, like, this scene, like, I don't really know, because I want more than just him realizing he was a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's just the grudgy part of me, the part that's super grudgy all the time.
Yeah.
That, like, feels like he should get his comeuppance more so than Lysandra, like, changing and almost dying and him realizing that, oh, yeah, she did what she did for Terrasen. Like, I feel so bad. Like, I want more, and I want her to rage at him.
Yeah.
I want her to fume, but she's not. She's very, like, level-headed, I guess. Like,
yeah,
she's not yelling at him. She's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I hate that. Like,
I like that she's like, she knows her worth, and she's like, it's not good enough now for you to be sorry. I do like that part of it. But I do get what you're saying. I guess she's also injured and sad.
I guess. But, like, I just wish that there was more to their... Like, I just wish that... I don't know. I'm just not satisfied.
Yeah, I can't remember what's next in their evolvement.
Me neither. And
so maybe there could be more.
Yeah, maybe I will get some satisfaction, but as of right now, I'm not satisfied.
Yes.
I'm not satisfied by him realizing what he did was wrong and her just being like, too little, too late, dude.
Yeah. Well, I guess the point is he's now going to be at his lowest of lows in a second because of this and because of everything else. And then it's like, ugh. Anyway, we'll get there. She then tells him in, like, an actually, like, heartbreaking moment that she wanted it to be him after Wesley, who was killed in Assassin's Blade, but we found out about their relationship in Queen of Shadows.
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
And agreeing to Aelin's plan wasn't a burden because she wanted it to be him. And he says he'll never stop regretting it, but she just tells him to leave. And that they have nothing left to say to each other. And then he says, and I'm like, no, she told you to leave and you had nothing left to say to each other. But he says he meant every promise that he made on the beach in Skulls Bay.
But he obviously didn't because he threw her out in the fucking snow.
I know. I'm like...
You don't get to say that to her now.
She told you that you had nothing left to say to each other. Fuck off. So we go to Adian's point of view now. And he's done many things in his life, but he's never felt like more of a bastard than he does right now.
He should have been feeling like a bastard this entire time.
Yep.
Ugh.
He thinks that he pulled rank to get her the best healer in a tent, and many others that were injured in the battle will actually die, and they'll be left in the morning. So, like, that is sad. But I guess it's showing that he cared. But I'm also like, she is your strongest asset as a warrior. She's a fucking shapeshifter. Everyone should be trying to help her first. Because she's one of the strongest soldiers. Ren and Darrow are waiting by his tent. And Darrow says he couldn't trust his messenger. So he came to tell Adian that for his act of reckless rebellion and his utter defeat at the border and the loss of Paranth, he is stripped of his rank, and he is now a soldier in the Bane if they'll have him. And then he says if the imposter shifter is caught as Aelin again, she will be executed on sight, or they'll order it, whatever. And Adian kind of just laughs and says he'd like to see them try, and they're like, she's just a woman, and he's like... Or they're like, you won't be able to stop us, whatever they say. But he's like, I'd like to see you try to take on a shifter that powerful. And it's one of those, like, I won't stop you. She'll do it herself. Really? That everyone has in a relationship in this SJM book.
Mm-hmm.
Doro asks for the Sword of Orinth back, and Ren cuts in and says, like, they only have it because of Adian, and Darrow says he will forever have their gratitude for that, but the sword is going back to Orinth until they decide who will take it. Adian thinks he deserves this for his failure to defend Terrasen, like he promised Aelin, and for how he treated Lysandra. Completely unrelated, so that has nothing to do with it, dickhead. And then he thinks she's held his heart from the moment she shredded into the Valg in the sewers in Queen of Shadows. And I'm like, did she? Because you don't treat someone like that if they hold your heart. So he passes the sword over, and he says it's just metal and bone. And Darrow's like, cool, but I'm taking it. And he says that Commander Killian is now the general of the Bane, and Adian can report to him. So he leaves, and Ren asks why Adian isn't fighting this, and Adian says he doesn't give a shit and just goes to his tent. Good, that's
fine.
Great.
Is Killian, like, we haven't heard much from this person, have we?
No, he's always been his second. Like, we've heard about him. He's the one that he was like, tell Killian to get the Bane and bring them here, and like...
Right, so he's like a good guy.
It seems like. I don't remember him speaking much or it mattering much what he said, but I think he's just like a guy that is good.
Cool.
It's kind of implied later that, or earlier possibly, that they may have like had
had a thing,
but I don't know if it was like an actual thing or if it was just like a circumstances thing. And I don't know if we ever get anything more on it. And I also could have made that up. Woo! So now we do something a bit odd, and I think it only happened one other time, and it was during Crown of Midnight, after Nehemia died. But we get the point of view of a random soldier in the Bane. And he is thinking, this is all in his head, but the Lords of Terrasen stripped the general of his sword. And he's, like, this soldier is actually new to the Bane, and it was an honor to fight for the prince and for Terrasen and leave his family. But now all the other new recruits that started when he did are dead, and he's a fool, and there's no one left to save them. Then he thinks the queen was a lie, and he doesn't know what Aelin deemed more important than them. And he won't abandon the army, even though others are debating it, because he swore an oath to protect Terrasen and his family, and he will hold to it even though he knows he's going to die. So, and I think the last time we had it was also a moment of very low spirits and very low times, so it's kind of to show that it's bad.
Yeah.
We go back to Adian's point of view, and Killian refuses the title of general, and he refuses to give orders, and Adian thinks, the Bane are still loyal to him, and he thinks he deserves it because of all of the time that they've been together, whatever. Lysandra is healed enough to ride, but she stays with Ren and completely ignores him, which
good.
Fine by me. 3 days pass, and Morath is gaining on them, and they're half a day from Orith, but the Florine River is in the way, and the river is too wide and deep to cross without boats, and it might not be frozen yet because it's only early winter. So there's a bridge to the south, and in the north is a pass through the mountains. So if they had to go through the north, Morath would likely pick them off one by one. And Adian asks if they know if the Florian is frozen or not. So Lysandra flies off as a falcon to check. And she comes back and tells Ren, and not Adian, that there's no ice and the bridge was destroyed. So they're basically being herded between the water and the army, and they're basically screwed. It's kind of a juxtaposition of this is what's happening to them, and then in Annielle, the bad army is going to be between the wall and the Coggan's army. It's very similar situations. But it's just telling us how fucked they are, basically.
Yeah.
We go to Kale's point of view, and he's giving Farasha an apple, because they actually had to fly her, this giant war horse that he had back in when he was at the Coggan's Palace. They had to fly her with the Rooks back to the Annielle Keep, so she's kind of freaking out a bit.
Yeah.
Which is completely reasonable. And he's thinking of everything he learned from Aelin and them, and he thinks he hopes that Dorian and Manon find the key, but that he doesn't form the lock. And you're so
he wants Aelin to do it.
Yeah. Cool.
Why not? Might as well.
Yeah. He doesn't even think of the fact that she's been imprisoned for the last so many months and how shitty that was. Nope, doesn't care. He loved her at one point, allegedly.
Allegedly being the key word there.
Right? Irene says she should go see if the healers need any help, and he tells her, he just walks over to her and says, "I know." And she's like, "What?" And he puts his hand on her still flat belly.
Ugh.
I added that part in because I knew you'd hate it.
I do. Listen, it's a trope in all the books. I said it last week. I'll say it again. The whole, like, oh, putting your hand on the flat of your belly. People don't do that. You don't do that, like, unconsciously or subconsciously. It is a very conscious, you do it when you want people to notice you doing it.
Yeah.
So, like, the whole thing of her being like, oh, unconsciously, I'm putting my hand on my tummy as if I want to protect my unborn child. No. No.
You tell him.
Just no. That's not a thing. I hate it. I hate it so much. Sorry, I felt that really got heated.
No, it's fine. And she asks how he knows, and he says, so it's true. Because I guess he wasn't 100% sure. And it would be really funny if she wasn't.
She was like, what the fuck? What are you talking about, dude?
Why are you touching me on my belly right now? But she asks him if this is what he wants. And he says more than he ever realized. And she tells him that she's 2 months along. Like, you're in the middle of a war. Cool, guys. But she tells him that she didn't want him to worry. And, like we've said multiple times, if one of them dies, all three of them die. So they have a bit of a cute moment where they hug, and he teases her about waddling beautifully when she's further along. And it is really sweet. But she asks how he found out. And he says his father told him. But he wishes that she told him first. But he can understand, like, why she was worried. And she says that he'll be a brilliant father. And he says that's high praise from someone who wanted to throw him from the Torre a couple of months ago. And I was like, a couple of months ago, guys. She wanted to kill him a couple of months ago. And now they're married and preggo.
Having a baby.
Like, okay, sure.
This is just how it goes, I guess. This is marriage. This is
marriage. Marriage's trench. Oh my. So they have a sweet moment where he says that he's hers to command and he'll need to end the war soon so that he can build their house by the summer. But before she can command what he does, he needs to deal with introducing Aelin and his father.
I mean, that's
so we go to Irene's point of view. What?
It's gonna go well.
Yeah. We go to Irene's point of view, and she immediately just thinks it goes badly. And, like, I don't think it does, but okay.
Yeah, but Irene's just, like, a precious baby angel, and, like, if people aren't, like, loving each other on the regular, she's like, oh my god, it's bad.
Yeah, that's true. So his father is immediately pissed that they didn't immediately come to him and get him up when Aelin showed up. And they all go to the room that she is in with her peeps / court. And Aelin and Rowan come out, and they can see that inside Elide and the wolf are sitting and eating. And Lorcan and Gavriel aren't there, and Elide thinks it's probably for the best. His father looks at Rowan and says he assumes that they met in Wendelin after KoA sent her there, which is just such a jab at KoA for
sending her away, and for his dad, like, helping.
Yeah. And Aelin says she doesn't think his son regrets it and looks at Irene. And she tells him not to waste his breath on taunts because she's tired and hungry and it won't end well for him. And he says that this is his keep. And Aelin says she trusts he's not going to get in their way. And he's just like, you're not the queen here. And she says, yeah, but KoA is the king's right hand and outranks him. And he didn't know that. And KoA says that he would have told him when the time was right. But we're just like, why wouldn't we have told him before now? But anyway. Rowan tells him in, like, a bit of peacefulness that he's defended and prepared his people admirably, and they aren't trying to take that away from him. And he just responds that he doesn't need the approval of Fey brutes.
Yikes.
And you're like, fuck off. And Aelin just says that they're going to eat and they'll see him on the battlement tomorrow and that he should rot in hell, which I love. And then she says congratulations to Irene and Kale and closes the door. And I'm like, I'm glad that Kale knows now, because it'd be super awkward. I guess it could be for them being married, but it's for the baby that she's saying it.
Yeah.
So we go to Aelin's point of view now, and Elide says that Kale's father is a horrible man. And Rowan says Aelin was in rare form tonight, and she says that anyone who interrupts her dinner risks paying the price, which I love. Big fan.
Yeah.
Rowan tells them that the men here are terrified, and it can make them sloppy, and she asks what they can do. And he says he doesn't know, but she can tell he either doesn't want to say it in front of the others, or he doesn't want to push her. So she knows he's keeping a secret of some sort.
It just, I'm sorry, like, the whole, like, the men are terrified thing, like, it's Lord of the Rings all over again.
Oh, yeah. It's the exact same, like, they're gonna die here. It's the same conversation. And I will die as one of them, or with them, or whatever he says. So, Aelin has actually not really been in any real battles, other than the, like, one where she accidentally almost killed everyone in Skull's Bay. And, like, she wiped out a whole bunch of people at the temple in Empire of Storms.
Yeah, and
but, like, it wasn't a battle,
in
really.
Wendolin, when she fought the three
true.
princes. But again,
yes.
It was just 3 princes, right? It wasn't...
She wasn't in the fighting battle part. True. So, like, yeah, she hasn't really... Because then, even in the last book, when she's in the mirror for the majority of the battle.
Yeah.
So, she asks them if land or sea battles are worse, and Rowan says both are messy, but they're different. And Fenris says he prefers land, and Aelin says that's just because no one likes the smell of wet dog.
Yeah.
Which I love. And Fenris actually laughs at it, which is nice because, like, he's been a sad bone lately.
What did you call him?
A sad bone. I meant bean, but then I said bone.
Like, it was like a sad bone. Is that, like, supposed...
Is it sad sex, is what that is.
Like, what?
A sad bone is when you have sex and you're sad.
I was so confused.
Oh, he also had a sad bone earlier in the book. It was categorically rape, but I just, so bad.
Poor dear.
Sorry, guys.
So
you can
sad.
send me away. He was a sad bean. So, they talk about it, and they basically say, like, the battle's going to be brutal, but their plan is sound, and their plan is basically to, like, trap the army between them and the battlement, and then kill them all.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll all be up on the battlement where KoA was, aka the top of the wall of Helm's Deep. Elide is going to be with the healers because
obviously
she can't fight.
She
And
can
Gabriel... Sorry?
She can fetch things.
Yeah. Gabriel shows up then, and he says, the men are full of fear. And they kind of have the same conversation again. And then Elide randomly just asks who would rule Doranel if Maeve is banished. And Fenris just says, or burned to a crisp. Which I love. And they think about it for a bit. And Gabriel and Rowan say it would be Aelin, because it passes down maternally, and she's the sole direct female claim to Mab's bloodline. But then Gabriel says someone in Rowan's household could have a claim on Mora's line. And they realize it would be Selene, who is fighting with Adian, etc. right now. She's the, like, I guess, next female in line there. So Aelin says Selene can have it, but I guess technically they would both be able to co-rule it if they wanted to, but obviously if she wants to stay in Terrasen.
So,
and she also...
But Dornell is in Wendelin, correct?
Next to it?
Isn't it? Isn't Dornell just a city in Wendelin? Like, it's not its own country. Or kingdom, I guess. Like, it is located in Wendelin.
Yes, yeah.
So, like, technically, couldn't the Ashrivers or the Ashrivers lay claim to it because it's technically in their kingdom?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because, like, I can't imagine the Fae would be okay with that. Because it's, like, Dornell has all the Fae population that have, like, fled from this continent over. And, like, it's all Fae living there. I can't imagine that they would bow down to a human prince. King. I guess he has a dad? Don't remember.
He does have a dad.
Yeah.
I think.
I just can't imagine that they would allow that, I guess. But who knows? Aelin just thinks, like, Selene can have it because she knows she's never going back there again. Which is kind of sad to think about because, like I don't necessarily think she means this in a because I'm going to sacrifice myself. I think she means this in a I've been traumatized there kind of way. But it is a bit sad because, like, I think it was last week Rowan was talking about how he wanted to take her to Lyria's grave and, like, show her the cabin where they lived and that kind of stuff. But if she's like, I'm never going back there, then it'd be hard to do that. But if she becomes immortal, maybe one day she'll go back.
But also, they lived, like, further up in the mountains, less so in, like, Dornell proper, right? They lived in, like, sort of so, like, maybe it wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah, true.
Going to, like, a place like that.
Yeah. And I feel like she'd go back to Mistward because, like, she'd probably offer all of those people a spot in her kingdom.
Yeah. Good memories.
If she could. Yeah. Fenris says the little folk knew, and that's why they, like, brought her the crown. And that's why, which is, like, obviously they knew. Why did we not realize that she was obviously the next in line if they kept giving her the crown?
Yeah.
And Maeve gave her the crown. But it makes Aelin think of how the little folk have saved her many times.
They have.
And Gavriel calls her the Fairy Queen of the West, and Selene is the Fae Queen of the East. I don't know if there's a difference in the way they pronounced it, but it was pronounced differently in the audiobook, so... What? She's the Fairy, and Selene's the Fae.
Interesting.
I don't know. Aelin thinks that, like, I guess after the war, she will look after the little folk on this continent, and she's going to create a home for Fae here. So, kind of what I was just saying, that, like, I think she'd offer a home to, like, the people in Mistward that aren't allowed into Dornell. I also think that, like, if Selene takes over as Queen of Dornell, she'd probably let them in too. Like, she's probably not going to be as much of a bitch and as picky as Maeve was.
Oh, God, yes.
But, you know. But then she thinks that she also needs to sacrifice herself, so I guess she won't be doing a lot of that anyway. But then she also thinks, first, they need to live through the battle tomorrow. Because you could die. So I guess they go to sleep. She's having a dream. And she's in a wordstone coffin, which sounds awful. And, like, she was, like, when she was underground in Crown of Midnight, and it was wordstone around her, like, she was getting, like, headaches, and it was weird feeling. So, like, a coffin of it sounds awful. The gods built it for her, and Elena is in one next to her, screaming. And she thinks 2 princesses, 1 golden, 1 silver, 1 young, 1 old, both the cost to seal the gate. And there's no afterworld for either of them. And she should just embrace it. So she wakes up, and she knows that the gods are watching and waiting. And she turns to Rowan to, like, get back to sleep. But I guess it's, like, a reminder that now that she's out of the coffin, she should be focusing on getting the keys and sacrificing herself.
Yeah. It's like, who cares about Terracin?
Yeah. Because we don't know if it was her subconscious being like, you're going to have to sacrifice yourself because she'd been thinking about it, or if the gods actually sent that to her as like a reminder. So yeah, she rolls into Rowan and she thinks she won't be helpless again. Good. So we go to Dorian's point of view, and he is in a female body. And he didn't think it would be so different, but his breasts are cumbersome. And he has to, like, readjust how he's walking. And he actually, like, watched a novice Crochan last night, and he became her by shifting himself this morning. He thinks he thought he knew everything about the female body, and he debated getting in a tent and figuring it out firsthand. Of course he did. He's a teenage boy.
Oh, I hate it.
The 13 haven't decided where they're going yet because they actually haven't been invited back to the home hearths. So they're just not sure what they're going to do, I guess. Manon walks by him and then abruptly stops because she smells that it's him and turns to him. And she says that she's surprised he's not groping himself. And he says maybe he already did. You know, like, of course. And she says she's surprised he didn't pick someone prettier. And he's like, I think she's pretty. And Manon, like, immediately feels jealous, it seems like. So she says he's about to go to Morath, and he says he didn't say that. And that she then says they have enough to deal with. And he says he's not standing in her way. And she says if he wanted a soft-hearted woman who won't balk over hard decisions, he's in the wrong bed. And he says he's not in anyone's bed now because they haven't been sleeping together since their fight. She tells him that his opinion doesn't matter to her, and she tells him to change out of that form. And he says he knows why she doesn't want him to go. And he, like, phantom touches her with his, like, ghosty hands. Shadow hands. And he says, right?
Him and his shadow hands.
And I don't really understand why he does this, but he tells her to tell him to stay. And he says if that's what you want, but she won't say it. And I'm like, but what's going to happen if she does say it? Yeah. You still need to go to Morath. Yeah. Like, why are you asking her to admit to this when she knows that you're going to go die? It's just not necessary. But anyway.
Well, it's literally he just wants her to, like, I don't know, it just seems like he wants to hear her say that she cares about him.
Yeah, I guess, but it's just mean. He says she won't say it because she's afraid. And she says he doesn't know what he's talking about and walks away. So we go to Manon's point of view, and she's like, afraid? How preposterous. Burr, burr, burr. And also maybe true. Which, like, fair. She's admitting it to herself, at least.
She admits a lot to herself that she doesn't admit to anyone else.
Yes, that's true. She notices that, like, some Crochans look at her and frown like they know it's dumb for them to separate, but they can't follow after the Crochans if they're not invited. So Manon goes to Glennis to say goodbye, and Manon tells her to fly well, and we're just like, they're parting ways soon.
Yeah.
Then Manon thinks, like, yeah, she is afraid, and it makes her think, like, she also didn't really try to convince the Crochans. Like, she didn't let them know the real her. She didn't do her best, I guess, is what she's thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then Glennis senses something and tells Manon to run, and she doesn't. And Glennis says they're here, and then we see 3 wyverns that Manon recognizes, and the matrons found them.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I actually love this part. As much as I, like, bitch about Manon and Dorian's point of view being like, why doesn't he love me? Why doesn't she love me?
Yeah.
Like, I like this instance.
I don't hate it. I just find that it's sort of drawn out. Like, when we're with Manon and Dorian, we're there for so long.
And it goes back and forth so many times.
Yeah, between the two of them. And I just want to be like, no offense, but Aelin's more important right now.
Yeah. Agreed. Which is how I feel about Manon in, like, all of the books, and I love Manon to pieces, but in Heir of Fire, I was like, I don't care about you.
Yeah, and we were really just getting to know her then.
Yeah. But, like, on a reread, I'm like, oh, we get to meet them, but then I'm still like, I'd rather be reading about Aelin.
Yeah. Valid.
So the 3 High Witches came alone, and they land next to Gladys's fire, and the shadows are airborne, and we get that there's no other witches around. Astrid and Sorrel come over to her, and then so does Dorian. And Manon wonders if she led them here after she went to the Fairying Gap. And she can tell that the Crocans think that it's her fault too. And she tells all the others, including Dorian, who could just kill them immediately, not to engage. And the blue blood matron, Cressida, tells Glenys it's been an age. But Glenys looks at the yellow legs matron, and she's wearing a crown of stars, and Manon realizes what it is. And Bronwyn says Rhiannon's crown. So, we found it. Glenys asks why they're here, and Manon's grandmother says that she made a grave error when she tried to turn part of their force against them, and sowed lies among the sentinels. And Manon says it must have rang true if she gathered the 2 other matrons to come after her. And Cressida says they can rid themselves of a thorn in their sides. Manon wonders if Petra is alive after letting them leave, or if the matrons punished her. And Manon says they came because they pose a threat, and they came because they are afraid, and they want to take the power away from her by killing her. So she draws a line in the snow, the ground, wherever, with her sword. And this was the second time this week. Okay, this is a tangent, but earlier this week when Lysandra wakes up and she's got, like, the very bad pain in her thigh, Adian's like, there were no magic healers, so we had to stitch it up, and it's ugly. And I was like, that's Bryce from Crescent City. And then this week, she draws the line in the ground, and I'm like, this is ACOTAR series reminiscent.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, there's just, like, it was just weird that it happened twice this week that I linked it, like, small things, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just made me think of another book of hers. Anyway, so she draws the line and says that they came alone because of that fear. And Manon points to the Yellow Legs matron and says that it's not your crown. And she says, the Yellow Legs matron says, come and fetch it from me. And calls her a traitor. And Manon says that she will not die, but they will. And they say that she's the last Crochan queen holding the line against them. And Manon says, not just a Crochan queen this time, and gets her teeth and nails out. And Cressida looks doubtful, and Manon sees that, like, she thinks this could be a mistake. And Manon tells her grandmother that she didn't kill her last time. No.
Yeah, the grandmother didn't manage to kill her last time.
Yeah, and she won't this time. And her grandmother's like, we'll see about that. And then her grandmother swings, and she meets 3 blows and then moves into, like, the Yellow Legs attacks her on the other side, and she's, like, just fighting off all 3 of them. And, like, Cressida attacks her too, but she isn't really a fighter because the Blue Buds are more into praying than fighting. And they all move so fast, but Manon is faster, I guess, because she's able to keep blocking all of them. But she thinks she's not ashamed of who she is this time, and she's not afraid. And her grandmother is the first to actually, like, get a hit in with her nails in Manon's shoulder, and, like, she starts bleeding. So we go over to Dorian's point of view. And he's never seen anyone fight like this. 3 against 1. And she doesn't land many blows, but neither do they. And he wants to use his magic, but she told him not to, so he's just got to stand there. And her shoulder is cut, and the matrons have some cuts, and her grandmother calls her pathetic like her mother and father. And Manon snarls, and her grandmother says they will wear her down, and she should surrender and die with dignity. And Manon puts her hand behind her back, and Dorian reaches for Damaris, but Bronwyn is faster and throws her sword to Manon, who catches it and now starts fighting with two swords. Badass.
It's
love
very badass. And I do love that Bronwyn is the one that did it.
Yes. Yeah,
because
100%.
Like, we needed that.
Yeah, that is like the start of this.
Yeah.
Manon then says that Rhiannon held the line for 3 days and nights and did not kneel, and she will do the same. She says, let us finish what was started then. And Dorian thinks like she truly is the queen of two people in this moment. So the Yellowlegs has her yield a few steps, but she keeps herself ahead of the line that she drew in the sand. And the other matrons kind of like back off for a minute to like watch, I guess, the Yellowlegs. They take a break.
Why not?
Manon. Yeah. The Yellowlegs matron gets like worked up because she can't get a hit in, and Manon like leaves her side open as a trap, and the Yellowlegs matron lunges, and Manon twists and cuts off her head.
Oh my god. She's just
easy
dead.
peasy. Just chops it off. And then she takes the crown off her head, and Dorian explains that like it's a living, glowing thing, and she puts it on, and the wind moves as if the crown has been awakened. And the 13 touch two fingers to their brow in reverence. And Manon tells Cressida to go tell her daughter all debts between them are paid, and she may decide what to do with, like, Petra will decide what to do with Cressida.
Yeah.
And she tells her to take the other wyvern with her, so the Yellowlegs wyvern. So she just runs, and I'm like, okay,
peace out.
You're still 2 against 1, but she gone.
Yeah, not anymore. But, like, I guess she wasn't... I don't know. The Blue Bloods don't seem to be as, like...
bloodthirsty and mean.
Yeah, and, like, you know, they seem to care about each other a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
So Manon's grandmother is the only one left, and she's standing in front of her. And Manon's got her glowing clown.
Oh my god.
Crown, even. It's a crown.
Is it?
It is. It's not a clown on her head.
It's not?
No.
Oh.
So Manon stalks towards her grandmother. And then we go to Manon's point of view. And she's walking towards her grandmother, and the crown is giving her strength. And she lays down, like, both swords and just has her teeth and nails. And she's like, we're going to do it the old way. She doesn't say that, but that's what I think.
Yeah, the old-fashioned way, grandmother.
Yeah. And she just looks at her hateful grandmother, and she feels 2 people at her shoulder, but knows that no one will be there if she looks back, but she knows that her parents are with her, which is like, you know, the powerful moment that you need.
Yeah.
But then she thinks this death does not belong to her, and looks back to Astrid, who is crying, and beckons her forward. And then she hears the snow crunch and turns to ready for her grandmother's attack, but realizes that she's actually fleeing. Good. Like a coward.
Good.
So Manon just says, let her go, even though Dorian could have killed her. And her grandmother flies away. So Manon turns to the Crochan and picks up both swords and returns Bronwyn's to her. And she tries to give the crown to... I don't know why I'm struggling so much with the word crown, but here we are.
Yeah, it's fine.
So she tries to give the crown to Glenys, and she takes it, but the stars dim. And Glenys says it doesn't belong to her, and she puts it back on Manon's head and kneels and says, what was stolen has been restored, what was lost has come home again. And I hail thee, Manon, Crochan, Queen of the Witches. And the other Crochans drop to a knee, and Dorian smiles, and the 13 kneel to her and, like, put a finger to their brow. And it's just, like, a nice moment. She's being crowned.
Yeah, good for her. So, we go back now to Rowan's point of view, and I'm fairly positive that my entire section is just this whole thing in this battle in Annielle.
Yeah.
Which I was here for. I was like, yes, please.
It's funny, though, that it worked out like that, because literally, like, next week starts with a different point of view. I'm pretty sure. No, it doesn't?
I don't remember. I'll be honest.
Yeah. But, like, it ends and...
It
ends at, like, a good spot. Like, it ends at, like, a spot that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so it might go briefly to someone else.
Yeah.
But it does come back quite swiftly, so it's fine. Okay, so after all the Crocans drop a knee, we go to Rowan, and he is lying awake in the keep besides Aelin, and he's just thinking. And he's thinking that Erewhon's army is mainly Valg and human, like the ones coming at them. Like there are no witches, there's no Ilkin or Wordhounds, nothing like super supernatural apart from the Valg soldiers. So like theoretically, Aelin could wipe this army out in a few moves, but like when they were strategizing, she made no mention of the fact that she could do that.
Yeah.
And Rowan is worried because he hasn't, apart from like a couple of what do you call them, like apart from like when she was like completely surrounded by fire and it burned off her clothes and she used it to protect her and Fenris.
Yeah.
He really has not seen her use her flame or like summon it at all or try and burn anything, or like he hasn't seen an ember.
Yeah.
Even during training, so he's a little bit stressed as to why.
And we're assuming this is what Aelin was like, he's not saying something. We're like, it probably was this.
Yeah, and like, he's worried about her, obviously. And he's wanted to ask her when they've been training, but just, he doesn't want to push it. So he just gets up because he's like, well, I can't sleep. So he gets up and leaves the room. And almost immediately, Fenris shows up late, like an instant later, and just tells him like what he didn't even ask. But Fenris tells him, like, he didn't have to ask, that Cairn, through Maeve's orders, did burn her. And he tells Rowan that one time Cairn put the metal gauntlets on and heated them over an open flame. And it took the healers 2 weeks to fix her hands. Which is devastating. But then he goes further and says, when she woke up, she didn't know what was real and what was a nightmare. So, like, a part of me wonders, like, did they leave her unconscious during the healing for, like, 2 weeks?
Possibly. Because the way Fenris said it, was that was last week. He said that she looked at a healer and kind of shuddered, wasn't it?
Yes.
And he was like, they did what they could, and they would tell her that you were under even when you didn't have to be, so that you'd have more time.
Yeah.
So it does make me wonder if she's like under that whole time.
Yeah.
Like, this whole magic thing, really, having magic in a world is so helpful to be like, and my muscles didn't atrophy because they magicked them to stay on atrophy. And I didn't need to eat because they magicked it so I had nutrition.
Yeah.
Which, like, obviously, she talks about in the beginning, she didn't eat until she did, and then there was iron in her food. But if she's out for 2 weeks, like, are we assuming they have, like, an IV and a feeding tube, like, hooked up? Like, or are we assuming they're just magicking that shit?
Oh, they're definitely magicking it. If they can heal her hands that were, like, catastrophically burnt, I'm sure they can be like, nutrition, here you go, with a wave of the hand.
Exactly. Sorry, that was a tangent, I feel.
Not too bad.
Okay.
He also tells Rowan, too, that, like, no matter what they did to her, his claiming marks never faded from her neck. No matter how many times they, like, tried to remove them, once she was healed, they'd show back up. But that confused Roan, because he was like, but when I found her, they were gone. But Fenris told him that the last time they healed her is when they disappeared. And that was right after Maeve told Aelin that Rowan was spotted in Terrasin. And the insinuation is that the claiming mark disappeared when she lost hope that he would come for her.
Yeah.
Which is so cool. Like, obviously sad.
Yeah.
Obviously sad, but so cool.
Yeah, I love it.
It's such a cool idea.
Yeah. Just the, like, she had literal tattoos. She had scars from, like, being whipped. She had so many things. And for it to be like, this one stayed out of sheer will, basically. It's a cool concept.
Mm-hmm. So Fenris then tells him to stop wondering about what happened to her and let her tell him when she's ready. And that pisses Rowan off because, like, she is his mate. Like, he knows that.
Yeah, that's why...
It's why he hasn't asked her about her powers. Like, he knows not to push her, but, like, Fenris is acting as if he knows more.
Yeah.
And
if he could easily have asked her before now, but he hasn't because he knows not to push her.
Yeah. And, like, he just thinks that, like, them telling each other things when they were ready was part of their bargain when they first met. Like, when it was sort of something that they did in Mistward. And he actually was compelled to tell her things he'd never told anyone before. And, like, she actually wanted to hear those things. So it's part of the reason why they grew so connected to each other.
Yeah.
So he goes to the dining hall or whatever, and sure enough, even though he got up before Aelin, she managed to beat him to the dining hall and was already eating with Elide. So then they just all, like, scarf down breakfast, and then they're like, we need to find weapons for us to use in the war. So they just go...
This is also one of my favorite parts.
So they just go looking. And they don't find any in, like, the armory that's, like, picked clean. So they're like, let's keep going. So they just keep going. And all of a sudden, they're in, like, one of the lower levels. And they find a locked room. And it magically gets unlocked. And it's full of weapons and armor. And Elide wonders, like, why was none of this, like, distributed? But Fenris actually examines it and tells them that they're all heirlooms. So, like, they're very well made and they're in good condition. But they are, I'm assuming, like, they're worth a ton of money. That's why they weren't distributed.
Which is like, let's die instead of using these because they're worth a lot of money. Which I know is the mindset. I get it, but I'm also like, shut up.
Why does that have to be the mindset?
Yeah.
You're
gonna be dead.
Yeah. And, like, if all those soldiers die that could have had weapons, they're coming for you next. So they find armor that will fit them. As well, because Lorcan and Gavriel aren't there, so they take some for them. They collect some swords, daggers, and shields, but Aelin asks them to head up without her before she's donned any armor. So, like, she wants to, I guess, keep it secret. So they find Gavriel and Lorcan and give them their armor, and they wait for the battle to begin. So the Cognate plan to move towards Morath. So right now, the keep is sort of tucked in the valley. Then we've got the Morath army in front of them, and then the Cognate army is behind them. So the Morath army is sort of stuck in the middle. It's the meat in this Annielle Cognate sandwich.
Yeah.
So, like, the Cognate plan to move against Morath and sort of move towards them and sort of push them up against the keep. And the idea is to, like, not let them strike first. And they sort of know, like, today is it. They're either going to win or they're going to lose today. This is not going to go past today. So the battle starts, and Rowan notices that, like, Aelin is nowhere to be found. And this part I found confusing. I don't understand the art of the siege. So I'm not super, like, clear on what the armies are trying to do other than break in.
Yeah. I did get super confused during this scene, and I think this time reading it is the first time that I actually... Because, like, I envisioned something completely different the first time I read it, and then this time I was listening to it, and I was like, oh, I don't think I understood this correctly at all. So, confusing.
Yeah. So, the Morath army have ladders, and they're trying to put the ladders up on the battlements to enter the keep, but the archers are just picking them off.
Which, if you'll remember, Helm's Deep.
It's the exact same.
Not to keep doing this to you guys,
it's the Battle of Helm's Deep.
If you haven't watched Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, let me tell you.
That's it.
This is it.
So, Fenris, like, I guess all of our main players are further up on the battlements. They're not down yet, like, with the every folk. They're way up high. So Fenris is actually shooting his arrows off, but he is the only one picking off Valg soldiers or human soldiers or whatever. And Rowan thinks that this is because the rest of them want to save their arrows in case they need them for something bigger. Like, because, yeah, they have only seen humans of Valg, but that doesn't mean that nothing else could come.
Yeah.
But they want one of them to be seen participating and actually, like, being seen taking guys out. So that's why Fenris is doing it. So it seems like Morath also has these things called siege towers, which I just think of as Trojan horses, but in the shape of a 100%. Tower.
Yep.
And they have, like, people, I guess, pushing it or however, but it's moving, and, like, archers are trying to shoot at the soldiers pushing it because they don't want it to get flush with the keep, I'm assuming. Aelin is still MIA, and Rowan thinks, like, shit, I might have to actually go looking for her to see where she is.
Which would look so bad to, like, walk away from.
Yeah. So the siege tower is starting to get real close to the keep wall, so they head to where it's gonna land, and all the human soldiers are real scared. So, Lorcan, Gavriel, Fenris, Rowan, they get their weapons out and they make ready to kick some Valg butt.
Love it.
But they get distracted as the tower gets to the wall because Aelin just saunters out of the keep wearing pale gold armor gleaming in the light. And she's also wearing a diadem. But it's an armor one. It's not like a pretty gemmy one.
Yeah. Does sound interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to see what that means. Like, I can't imagine an armored diadem, I guess.
I think of it kind of like Aragorn's coronation crown.
Oh, yeah. Fair. That's so funny.
So she comes out and she's using her sword and she just starts slicing and dicing Morath soldiers. I guess it only took her 3 weeks to regain all of her muscle and skill.
Yeah.
So that's fine. So she just, like, approaches this siege tower that has, like, 40 or 50 dudes inside of it. And they just start pouring out and she's like, slice, dice, slice, dice. And it's interesting because her actions cause the soldiers that are standing there terrified. They're waiting in the keep and they're like, oh my god, the queen is here. The queen is here. The queen is here.
It's literally the same as last week, but the queen is actually here.
Yes, it's
not just Lysandra.
That's true. So they're all like getting their hopes up. They're all like, this is positive for them. So she takes down like 5 soldiers and then 10 soldiers, and then she hears men yelling, "To the queen!" because she's down there fighting on her own. And Rowan is watching all of this and realizes that she doesn't need her flame to inspire people. And that
I love this. I love this realization.
Well, yeah, because she is so defined by her power, right? Like, everybody defines her by her power. She is Aelin Fireheart, like, Mala Firebringer, like, you know what I mean? Like, all of her nicknames are just her power. So, like...
Yeah. The fire-breathing bitch queen.
Yeah. The fact that she can be, like, Rowan is, like, she doesn't even need her power. She's great on her own. Is nice and healthy.
Yeah. Love it.
I wish she knew it earlier than this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we go to Aelin's point of view. So she's timed, in her head, she has timed all of this on purpose to impress Hussar. After Hussar had said, "I guess you're going to have to impress me," or something snotty.
Yeah. I think that was last week, but she's like, fuck off. We're literally in a war.
Yeah. But she just wants to remind everyone that she's not helpless, because, like, she can see the way that they look at her, and, like, she hates it, I guess. So, they're all just fighting, and she hears the battering ram that Morath brought, and they're, like, trying to batter down the gates, and she just keeps fighting, and the Rook armies are gaining ground on Morath's army, and they just keep killing. And Aelin just thinks that she is not going to be helpless or contained ever again. So, we go over to Elide's point of view, and she isn't even fighting, obviously. She has no experience in combat.
Yeah, it would be dangerous for her to fight.
Like, you imagine her, like, limping onto the field and being like, "Come at me!"
Well, like, I just wish they had trained her.
Yeah.
Like, was she part of the whole training montage? Just to protect herself, even. I don't really remember.
I don't know. She said she learned some word marks, even though she couldn't read.
Yeah.
They managed to teach her a few word marks, but, like, nothing extreme.
Yeah.
So she just says, like, she never wants to be in another war again. She is in the healer's room with Irene, and, like, she doesn't understand how calm they all are, but, like, this is small potatoes for them. So she's helping to fetch supplies and water, but, like, men keep coming, and she's just refusing to think of her friends out there. She's refusing to think of Lorcan, and she's a little bit, like, unsettled, I'll say, because he didn't come to their room last night, because I guess even though she hates his guts, they're sharing a room.
Well, they're all in the same room.
Are they?
All 5 of them, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Oh, he didn't come to the room last night, and he didn't find her that morning to, like, say goodbye or anything like that." And so she's like, "Maybe he's finally taken what I've said to heart." And I'm like, maybe. Like, you did tell him you want him to die, essentially. Or, like, she doesn't care if he dies. So, like, yeah, maybe he's taking that a bit personally. Just a guess.
Taking it a bit personally. How rude of him.
How dare you, sir?
Yeah.
But, like, it's valid. I'm sorry.
Oh, 100%. It's just funny how, like, you downplayed it a bit. It's taking it a bit personally.
Anyway.
It's not even about him.
God. So, then we go to Kale's point of view. There's a lot of, like, switching up in this scene, I guess, because we have so many players. Like,
it's all happening at once in the same,
so it's jumping from person to person. So we're in Kale's point of view now for a minute. He's just fighting, and he's covered in blood, and the Morath forces just keep coming. And it seems like their only goal is to inflict destruction. Like Morath soldiers, it's not a strategy. They're just like, let me get in there and kill as many innocent people as possible.
Yeah, because they're evil for evil's sake.
And he's like, for my wife and my unborn baby and all of the other innocents in the keep, I shall not fail. And he just keeps going.
Yeah.
I just
love him so much.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what it is. I just find him a walking cliche.
Yeah.
Then we're in Nesrin's point of view. So she is fighting on top of her rook. And she runs out of arrows. And she's noticing that Morath is not retreating, which in her mind is like a red flag. Like, they're obviously going to lose. Why are they still coming? Which is, I guess, sort of reminiscent of what Kale was saying. Like, they just want to destroy for destruction's sake. And she's like, why are they just still going? Like, they must know they're going to lose. They're, like, again, as I said, they're the meat in this army sandwich.
Yeah. Whereas in our other point of view, the meat in the army sandwich is Aelin and co.
Yes. So she is, like, commanding the left flank. Sartak is commanding the center. And then 2 scouts, like, sort of call for Sartak, and he leaves formation. And Nesrin is like, hell no. He's not leaving, and me not know what's up.
Yeah.
So she goes too, and he yells at her. He's like, get back in formation! And she just is like, no. No, sir. And just completely ignores him. And I'm like, if this is what's to come for their marriage, I'm not mad at it.
No, me neither. But it's like, at this point, he's her commander as well. It's like, you should maybe listen?
No.
But also, he's being dumb, so...
But he's not even being dumb, like, you know, I guess it doesn't really concern her, but she's like, he's my person. If he knows something, I want to know it too.
But, like, he's going off by himself.
Yes.
If he gets shot down, like, you should never go anywhere alone. Buddy system.
Yes.
In a war, you need the buddy system.
That is true. The buddy system is so important. Especially during a war. So she just goes with them, because I guess the scouts are trying to show him something. And the 4 of them fly over to the dam that exists, I guess, near Annielle. And they see that Morath soldiers are there, and Sartak actually suggested earlier that they use the dam to kill all of Morath soldiers when they thought it was hopeless and that they were going to lose.
Yeah.
So they are actually using battering rams on the dam to try and get it to break. So there are 30 soldiers, like, wielding this gigantic battering ram, and Sartak, as we know, Nesrin has no arrows left. Sartak has 2. So he does use them and kills 2 of the 30. But, I mean, that still leaves 28. So, like, priorities. What? I'm just saying, why would you use your last 2 arrows to do nothing? Like, killing 2 out of 30 is not gonna put a wrench in their operation.
No. But
You would have been better off saving your arrows for something else.
Oh, 100% I agree. But, not to bring everything back to Helm's Deep. But...
We're gonna bring it all back to Helm's Deep.
It does remind me of that one scene where he's, like, running with the flame. And it's like, Legolas, take him down! And you look around, and there are flames everywhere. Some of them even closer. But this guy is running like he's at the end of a marathon to dive in with this thing. And it's like, Legolas shoots him twice, and it does nothing. So it just reminds me of that in a way.
Yeah. I feel like if you haven't seen this movie, you're not gonna understand any of the references.
No, you should stop right now.
Pause.
Well, actually, you should probably... Yeah, but you should have probably paused 2 hours ago. We haven't even been talking 2 hours. Maybe even 2 weeks ago, you should have paused, watched the Two Towers, and then come
first
back.
watch the first one, because you can't just jump into a series mid in the second movie.
Yeah. And the third one's out, so you may as well do a day of it.
Just spend the day. Anyway, so Morath then starts firing iron bolts, like, back at them, and I guess they're, like, heavy duty. They're not just arrows, they're, like, heavy duty, like, lances, I feel like, or, like, spears, something strong and heavy that'll actually, like, pierce through a rook. And they're, like, weaving in and out to avoid them. They manage to destroy the machine firing the bolts. And then, like, I don't remember reading this, because a little bit later, they talk about how they destroyed the battering ram, and I don't remember reading that. This bit...
I don't really either.
This bit confused me, because they were like, oh, we destroyed the battering ram, but the damage had been done. They say that later on, and I can't remember if I put it in my notes, but they do say it.
Yeah.
But in my head, I remember reading that they destroyed the thing shooting bolts at them. I don't remember them destroying the battering ram and or killing all the soldiers that are...
All 30 of them. Maybe they can't... Maybe they needed 32 people to hold it up. Or maybe it's just that heavy that they're like... Two people dead?
You can't do it anymore.
They were really pulling their weight. They were the actual strong ones, and everyone else was just faking. So now they can't lift it.
Yikes. But do you know what I mean? Like, I don't remember reading about that, but apparently it happened. So apparently...
Yeah, I don't really either, unless Sartek did something when we weren't really paying attention to him.
Maybe. I don't know. That I did...
Or maybe it's supposed to be implied that 2 people out of the 30 and they can't.
Maybe. I will say that I did find that this particular little section challenging. Like, it was a little confusing. Because there was just so much going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they see something happening to the dam and they're like, oh shit. And they race back to the battlefield. Then we go to Lorcan's point of view. He is fighting the siege towers that have, like, a ton of people inside. It's a total Trojan horse of tower. And Gavriel's with him, and they are battling. And then they're attacking the people that are wielding the battering rams against the gates, because they don't want them to break through. And, like, he loses track of time. Because, like, he is, like... What did we say? His power is, like, the power of death or the power of war, like, or fighting, like...
Yeah, it's like... It almost seems a bit like darkness and death. Not that I ever put anything with him and Reese being similar until this moment. But, like, he's the god of death follows him. So, are we just implying that his power is just death? And what does that even mean?
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder, is there some kind of link here that I'm not putting together? It would probably be between him and somebody in Crescent City, if anything. But
yeah,
I can't think of anything.
Me neither. But anyway, what...
He doesn't shift, does he?
No.
Unless it's like he shifts into a human and he's like, fuck that.
Yeah.
But I don't think he shifts.
I don't think he has an animal form.
But I guess Aelin is going to settle, and he doesn't shift either. And he doesn't really have... Does he have magic? Jesus Christ.
This is a tunnel that we are diving into.
Because Lorcan is demi-fae. He's just powerful as shit.
Is he?
I'm pretty sure. Otherwise, he'd have a shifter form.
Oh. Okay, I just looked it
Thank
up.
You.
For Aelin. So his magic is just as a demi-fae, that he just has fae-like qualities.
Like like he's got the smell and the sight
and the strength and the healing.
Yeah.
So
Lorcan is demi-fae. His father was fae and his mother was human.
Right. He's the most powerful demi-fae in existence. So why is he so icky about humans? That's rude.
Is he though? I just think he's sad about that she's gonna die. I don't think he's like...
At the beginning he was.
Yeah.
When we first met him, he was like, ugh, humans.
It's one of those situations that, like, it happens in the book we shall not name, or the series we shall not name, with the big bad is Demi, but hates everybody that's Demi. And, like, it happens in real life with, like, you just look at the people, for example, who voted for Trump, that thought, like, he's racist against this type of person, but he won't be racist against me. Like, even people of color that ended up voting for him. Yeah. And, like, once you become, I guess, Maeve's blood sworn, you can be like, I'll never let anyone know I'm demi-fae. I'll hide it, and nobody will know the difference.
Yeah.
And then you look down on the other ones because you're like, I'm special.
I guess. There's
got to be, like, a psychological name for the phenomenon. Because it happens in real life as well.
Yeah.
To a lesser extent, it's almost like the pick-me girl.
I guess.
Who's like, I'm not like other girls. I hate other girls. All of my friends are boys. That's what Lorcan is. He's a pick-me girl.
Anyway, so he's losing track of time because he's in such, like, a focus, like, you know, this is where he truly shines in battle, like, this is where he's the most useful, he just goes all in.
Yeah.
But he's near the keep, and the Khagan's army is, like, gaining the field and, like, killing a lot of soldiers. So KoA yells at Lorcan, like, just come back up, like, almost like, which I sort of don't like for KoA. He's almost like, come back up, you don't need to fight anymore, is really the vibe. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no, KoA, get the fuck back out there.
Well, also, KoA telling Lorcan and Gabriel what to do, I'm like, sit yourself back the fuck down. But, yeah, it's like, if they come back, the Khagan is still fighting. So, you're going to lose Khagan soldiers. You're not going to lose human soldiers. Is that
okay
like...
now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, like...
Is this book really just about racism?
Yeah, so I'm just pissed that, one, KoA is trying to tell Lorcan what to do, and two, that he's like, we're gonna win, I don't need to fight anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's stupid. But the god is, like, nudging Lorcan's shoulder, and it's the first time I think the god has spoken to him since everything that happened on the beach with Aelin. So, like, you know he's gonna listen.
But also, it makes me wonder...
Is he nudging him to his
what the
death?
fuck the god is thinking? Yeah, is the god like, this is the way you get the girl? Almost done! Yeah. It's, like, really fucking silly. I do wonder that, too.
I'm like, is the god nudging him to be like, I know what's gonna happen, Elide's gonna think you're dead and realize how she feels about you? Or is it dude, you fucked up, this is your punishment, like, you deserve this? Or is it just... Nah, dude, it's the right thing to do is to keep fighting. Like, what's the god thinking?
Yeah. It has to be like, what's the word? Like,
omnipotent.
It's a P. Never would have thought that. Thought it was an F.
But, it is omniscient. All-seeing. Omnipotent is all-powerful.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, all-seeing is what I'm going to say, because I'm not even going to try to say that word. And, like, I feel like he has to know what's going to happen. He's either going to die, or what happens is going to happen.
Anyway, so the god is nudging his shoulder, and he thinks it's to keep fighting, not to flee, not to, like, retreat. So he just keeps going, and he ends up... I just don't understand how he gets so far. Like, how does he get so far out there?
And, like, I also don't understand why he's like, fuck the shield, I want to feel this.
He does, yes. He literally throws his shield away because he's like, I want to feel every blow that gets landed on me. And I'm like, you do? I guess it makes it easier to fight without having to hold a shield, but, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So he keeps going, and he keeps, like, going further away from the keep, and I feel like we all can figure out what's gonna happen. The dam! Yes. So he's thinking of Elide, and he's thinking of, like, what would happen after the battle, and he thinks that she knows that she loves him, but she doesn't want to.
Yeah.
And he thinks, like, it doesn't matter because he doesn't deserve her love anyway. So, like, I will say that this is remarkably, like, at least he's not like, she doesn't love me. At least he's not there. Like, he's like, no, I know she loves me. She just wishes she didn't. So, like, in my brain, that's remarkably, like, self-aware, I guess.
Yeah.
But it is sad that he's like, I don't deserve her love.
Yeah, like, you don't get to... You don't get to decide what you deserve, but you don't get to decide who loves you, I guess is what I mean.
So he does think, though, that she deserves a life of peace, and that he...
Where is she getting that? You're in the middle of a fucking war, and she's here.
A war for the entire world. And...
Yeah, like, so you should fight every battle this hard and not die right now so that she can live in peace.
And he thinks that, like, he glimpsed that peaceful life in the time that they traveled together the past few months. And I'm like, you mean after she was almost kidnapped by her uncle and before he gave Aelin up on the beach? Like, that little...
Like, when he figured out that Aelin had lied to him and that Elide was carrying the thing and they, like, rushed to go to her... Like, when was this? Or after he lied about killing that guy on the boat and just threw him into the water and then was cleaning blood up, like...
But I guess that was all of his peace.
Well, you know what? He is a man of hard-found peace. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but of war. He's a man of war. Which is a jellyfish. Not a jellyfish, though.
It's a Japanese man of war.
Yeah, it's its own thing.
Yeah, aren't they, like, the most deadly, like, octopus?
Yeah, we saw one on a beach. We went camping, and it was crazy because there was, like, bioluminescence in the water, and, like, we got there, it was kind of late, and then we, like, set up our tent and everything, and then the next morning we looked, and there was just one on the beach, and it was dead. But they can still, sting you if you touch it. And we had just been, like, walking around the beach willy-nilly, didn't realize, and we found it the next morning. So, like, they're moving to Newfoundland.
Oh, my God. I don't like it. Anyway, so he is enjoying this battle because he's like, this is what I'm good at. This is all I'm good at. And so he drops his shield so he can feel each blow. And, like, he thinks that, like, he doesn't want it to be easy. It's like I feel like he's just punishing himself.
100%.
But as he's fighting in the front, someone attacks him from behind, a Morath soldier, and ends up slicing up his torso on the back. Like a fillet.
Yeah. It's true.
And then I guess Lorcan, like, turns to him or does something, and then the guy stabs him in the gut, and, like... And, you know, he falls. And he blacks out because he's just been filleted and then shish kebabbed.
Were you hungry when you wrote your notes?
Nope. This is all off the cuff, people.
Oh. Are you hungry now?
So then we go to Rowan's point of view. They're just watching. They're all up on the battlements watching the Kagan army beat Morath. And Aelin, Fenris, Hussar, and Kael are there. And I guess they're trying to figure out how many losses, like, I guess that's how much it's cluing up, is they can be like, well, how many people did you have die? So, you know, Hussar said, like, oh, we've had minimal losses, like, it hasn't been that bad. But they're like, Kael, how about you? And he just says, many. Let's leave it at that. So, like, a ton of his people died, because I guess they started... and they started fighting before the Kagan's army even showed up, right?
Yes, they've been fighting for multiple days. They're going to be a bit more rusty, too.
And they're not fully trained, they were. Right? His dad, we knew that his dad didn't have, like, a fully trained unit. They were just half-trained, like, militia. So, Kael's dad sees Rowan and Aelin in their borrowed armor, like, this antique heirloom armor, and he's, like, pissed. But Kael just, like, says something to him and shushes him, and his dad, like, shuts up, and I wonder what it is.
Yeah, I have no idea.
But, you know. Aelin is now starting to worry whether or not she can convince the Kagan to go to Terrasin. Like, now that this battle is cluing up, she's like, okay, now we gotta go to Terrasin. But then, before she can even think about those sorts of things, Sartak and Nezrin land and tell them about the dam. And they just say, like, they need to evacuate all their forces or everybody is going to drown. And it sucks because right now the Kagan army is further away from the keep than Morath, because they are
still on the outside of the sandwich.
They're the piece of bread. So, like, how are we going to get them past Morath's forces and into the keep?
Yeah.
But also, the keep is too small for everyone. Like, the Kagan brought a shit ton of people. Like,
sorry, the sandwich comment again, I started thinking, on the 5th day, you look to the east, and Gandalf comes with an army, and then they make a sandwich between the keep and...
Sarah J Maas had Lord of the Rings on her brain.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't stop myself.
Anyway, so the keep is too small to hold the Kagan's army, in addition to everybody that had been evacuated from town and is now in the keep. So the plan is for the Rooks to pick up as many soldiers as possible and, like, just drop them in the mountains. And, like, place them on rocks, cliffs, like, literally just deposit them wherever is safe. Yeah. But they also know that the army is too big for them to get everybody. So, like, they're like, shit, we're gonna lose a ton of people. Like, a ton of people are gonna die. So they're gonna just fly around and yell at everybody to run, try and find a tree, even though they're like, well, shit, the force of the dam is probably gonna rip all the trees out of the ground, so, like, they're probably not gonna be safe in a tree, but we'll give them some hope anyway. But climb a tree, like, in hopes that you can survive the water, or, like, run to the keep. Just do something. Just run. Then we go back to Elide's point of view. So, she had gone to the council room on Irene's behalf to see how Kael is doing. I guess Irene sent her to see, like, if he's still standing, walking, sitting, like, how are his legs?
Yeah, and I guess, too, like, have they almost won?
But immediately she knows that there's something wrong. Like, she can feel a tension. And they just tell her straight up, the dam is going to break and anyone on that field is going to be wiped away. And she is shocked. But then she notices that, like, everybody is here except for Lorcan. And she's like, where's Lorcan? And everyone's like, I don't know.
I love that nobody even noticed.
And then Gavriel says, oh, I saw him with the Kagan forces on the other side of the field. And I'm like, how the fuck did he get that far? How?
Yeah.
But it's fine.
He's quick.
Elide then asks if Fenris can jump to go get him. And, like, realistically, Fenris should be able to use his power to jump and save people. Like, just jump, grab the nearest person, and jump back. But he says he can't. Yeah. And, like, I think it's Rowan that notices, like, oh, yeah, like, you didn't use it once during the battle. And, like, we're sort of understanding that mentally he cannot use his power. And Rowan is just saying, like, dude, just do it. Go get him. And Fenris is like, I really can't. And Rowan is like, you should be full up. You didn't use your power during the battle. You should have a full well, a full tank. But Fenris just keeps saying no. And Rowan just is mad. Because he's like, you're going to let Lorcan die. Even though Aelin forgave him.
Yeah.
And then Aelin gets mad at Rowan. And it sort of like growls at him. And then Rowan growls back at her. And she's like, quit it. Like, give it up. And so Rowan backs down. So, like, Aelin is on Fenris' side.
Yeah. And
that sort of, the fact that Fenris is like, I can't, Elide, like, loses all of her hope. And,
of course.
But she's also like, she knows that if he was dead, she would know it.
How?
I don't know.
Are they mates now? Because that's the only way.
They are.
Well, fair.
So, she knows he's down there somewhere, and she's gonna find him. And she had made a promise months ago that she would always find him. And I'm like, when was that? I don't remember this.
Oh, after her uncle came to take her, and she almost killed herself, and he threw his dagger to make her drop her dagger. Yeah. He's like, I'll always find you or something, and it's the moment he realized he was in love with her. And then she said back, I'll always find you too or something. I'm assuming that's when it was.
All right. I'll buy it. So she's like, I made him a promise I would always find him. And she just repeats that mantra sort of throughout her next, like, sort of point of views. So, like, she's hilarious. Like, everybody is running further into the keep, and she's trying to get out. And everyone's crowding, and it's trying to swim against the current of people. So she keeps going. So she yells, clear a path for the queen, or make way for the queen, even though the queen is not with her. But, like, people do clear, and then she's like, thank you, and just, like, moves through everyone. And I'm like, of course Elide would do that. She's a genius. So she makes her way out, and she sees the stables, and she sees one of the horse handlers trying to get a hold and trying to calm Kael's horse Farasha, trying to calm her down. And she's like, aha! Anyway, so the handler couldn't control her, but Elide's like, I've got this, and the handler's like, okay, good, and just runs away. And Elide just speaks to the horse and says, like, I have need of you, and calls her Fireheart. And I'm like, is this a really common nickname? Like,
yeah.
You know. Anyway, it's fine. So says, I have need of you, Fireheart, please, like, and begs the horse. And the horse, like, listens because it's anthropomorphic. And has a mind of its own and can understand English.
Yes.
Or whatever language, the common tongue.
Yeah, even though, what language do they speak where the horse is from? What does the Coggins people speak?
I would say something else.
I would assume something else as well. I think they just know the common tongue. Anyway,
so the horse stills and, like, lets Elide get on her, and then they just race down the battlefield. So, skip to Rowan's point of view. He knows that, like, he's thinking about if he can use his magic to sort of help, but he knows it's only going to delay the inevitable. And I'm like, but if you delay the inevitable, it'll still give people a little bit extra time to escape. So, whatever you're thinking, shouldn't you do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
The dam might still break, but, if you delay it, people have a better chance of running away.
And, they're, even the rooks are, grabbing people, so, gives them more time. Anything that could help or delay or save another couple of people might be the difference in turning the tide of a war.
Anyway, so I guess Fenris comes up to him then, and they have a chat, and he tells him that his power was actually the only thing that him and Connell shared, and he just can't stomach using it right now. And, he doesn't know if he could ever use it again. So to me, this is foreshadowing that he's going to use it in the heat of another battle.
He just doesn't care enough about Lorcan to move past his trauma.
He's going to...
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It's just... can't ever use it again. So obviously, there's going to be another point in this war where, Aelin's going to be in trouble, or somebody, Elide or someone, and he's going to be like, oh no, and he's going to use it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's just...
I will say, too, that, I'm thinking about it now. I almost wish that him and Lysandra got together. Could you imagine them, running as wolves together, or him being a wolf?
Oh,
and
it'd be
her
so
being
cute.
her little snow leopard, and them, rolling around and playing.
Yeah.
It'd be so cute. And he would treat her so good.
Yeah, what were we reading? Oh, we were reading, Allie Hayes' Bride. And we were she was at the end, she was I can never, run with you as a wolf, and, it feels like he's giving something up. And I'm yeah, it feels like Lysandra's would be giving something up to settle for a man who can't shift.
Yeah, so, I'm making it official. I'm shipping Lysandra and Fenris, who's not a dick.
I wonder if there are any... There's definitely fics. There's fics for everything.
Let me look.
But I'd like to read them, I guess.
Imagine the couple, Lysandra and Fenris. Oh, yeah. Lysandra and Fenris both suffered sexual abuse and killed... Whoa, spoiler alert. They could help understand each other like no one else. There is fanfic.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I'm just saying, it could be good.
Yeah, agreed.
Anyway, so he just doesn't know if he can ever use his power again, and that sort of makes Rowan feel bad for pushing him. And he says, sorry, I shouldn't have pushed you to use it. But now they're trying to troubleshoot how to find Lorcan a different way. And, they didn't even notice that fucking Elide left the room. For a room full of, trained killers and assassins and spies and whatever, and soldiers, they are remarkably not observant.
Yeah. But also, I would just assume that she went back to the healers. If I was oh, she's gone back to help.
Would you, for someone who was so distressed when they found out that Lorcan was still out on the battlefield?
Yeah.
It's just not logical. And in the words of Judge Judy, if it doesn't make sense, it didn't happen.
Fair enough.
So they're trying to troubleshoot, Rowan is maybe I can go in hawk form and try and spot him, and Gavriel is maybe I can transform into my lion form and I can sniff him out, or whatever. And then they see Elide on Farasha riding out on the battlefield. And of course, Kale's first word is, Farasha! He only cares about his fucking horse. And Gavriel is oh, Elide's now gonna be killed too. But Hussar's if any of you guys head out there now, you will also be killed. Except for Rowan, because he can fly.
Yeah, but he can't, pick up a horse and fly back.
No, that's true, but, he's not going to die by flying overhead.
No, he could watch it closer.
I need to watch this movie. Where's my popcorn?
Yeah.
So then we go to Elide's point of view very quickly. She's shouting Lorcan's name over and over, trying to find him, find some sign of him, and she's just willing the dam to hold until she finds him. Jump to Kale's point of view real quick. So he's watching Elide ride out for Lorcan when Irene comes up, and he just tells her what's happening with the dam and everything. Hassar is there, and she's like, oh, she's a fool. A brave person, but still a fool. And Fenris reminds them all that Hellas guards Lorcan. Hellas is the god of death. And Annielle is Hellas's consort, and she watches over Elide. So maybe they'll find each other. And then Kale points out that he has called Farasha Hella's horse, and has since he met her. And he...
like, it's meant to be!
He's like, oh my god, maybe I met Farasha and brought her here for this reason. Not for me, but for them. And I'm like, way to make yourself the center of it all, Kale. He's like, oh my god, it's all me. I did it. I did this. And I hate it. Sorry. I know, we said we're like, oh, we're gonna try and be positive about Kale, and I'm just like, no, everything you do is garbage. Can't help it.
Yeah.
Anyway, switch back really quick to Elide's point of view, because, like, that's where all the action is. So, she's still calling for Lorcan, and she's, like, way out there. And she's just seeing bodies littered everywhere, right? There's black Valg soldiers, but then there's also interspersed, there's a few, like, golden armored Kagan soldiers, like, everywhere. But then she sees a huge amount of only black armored Valg soldiers. And she's like, who else would be able to just kill that many Valg without any gold soldier bodies around? So she knows that that's Lorcan. So she...
Of course.
I know, right? Of course. So she just follows that trail of Valg bodies. And she keeps calling for him until she sees a hand reach up from beneath, like, a bunch of bodies. And she's, like, digging him out of the body pile and sees his wound on his stomach. And she's like, well, shit, that's bad. But the fact that it hasn't healed, like, that it's still bad, she's like, well, shit, what must it have looked like before for it to still be like this? Like, the fact, you know, he does have healing. Mm-hmm. But she doesn't say anything. And instead, she's just, like, urging him to get up. Like, you need to get up. Come on, get up. Get up.
She's a bit of a dick.
Oh, she is. But, like, she's like, the dam is gonna break. You need to get up. Just get up.
Yeah.
We have to leave.
Like, she has to be, but also, it's like...
and, like, he's
dying.
So she has to work super hard just to get him to stand up, and it takes ages. And then she has to be like, okay, you have to get on the horse. Get on the horse. Come on. Get on the horse. Get up. Get up. And she's just, like, really urging him to get up. And she just tells him that she promised she would always find him, and she's here for him. And if he does not get on that horse, they are both going to die. And she knows that for him to move, it must be sheer and utter agony. But, like, she's like, doesn't matter. Get up. So, like, she helps boost him onto the horse. And remember, he's, like, 7 feet tall. So, like... she's
and she's 5'3" or some shit.
So, like, the fact that she's using her strength to boost him, she ends up twisting her ankle. Her bad ankle, nonetheless.
Yeah, doesn't she say, like, and I haven't read past this week, so I don't really remember what happens, but she says that something pops, and I'm like, ugh? Like, do we heal that?
I assume.
Okay.
So she does manage to boost him into the saddle, but she does, like, pop something in her ankle. Something hurts. And he, like, is holding out an arm to try and help her up, like, to pull her up, but she's like, I'm not gonna, like, she's worried that if she pulls on him to help get her up, she'll just pull him off the horse again, because he has no energy. So she just ignores the pain in her ankle because she's great at that, and runs and just hops up on the horse. And Lorcan does, like, sort of help her a little bit. And then she's on the horse, she's in the front, Lorcan's behind her, and she just tells Farasha to fly, and is just praying that they hold the gate open. Because, like, it's not going to be worth anything if they outrace the tide and make it to the gate, only for the gate to be closed, and then being like, hello! Yeah. Let us in, please!
Knock, 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 knock! And
then... So, we go then to Lorcan's point of view, and he is in absolute agony on the horse. Because, like, obviously the horse is bouncing. And, like...
Yeah.
It's not super comfortable in the best of times.
Yeah.
But, like, he knows he needs to stay conscious because he needs to keep a hold of Elide. He's worried that she's gonna fall off, so he's like, I need to stay conscious to keep her on the horse. And he's just astounded that she came for him. And I'm just like, you're worth it. You sweet little angel.
It's so funny. Like, was it earlier this week or last week we were bitching about him a bit? It might have been earlier today. But I love it.
And then there's a Rook Rider signaling in the air that the dam is going to break. And he knows that, for some reason, his cognitive thinking is still completely intact. Because he knows that once the dam breaks, it will be a minute until the field is flooded. And they're still like a mile or so out from the gate. And he just tells Elide, as they are riding a horse, that she has to let him go. That there's still a mile to the gate, and and that she just has to let him go. Because essentially he's too heavy. And without his weight, she might stand a chance of making it. And he doesn't want her to die. And then he tells her that he loves her. And that he has loved her from the moment she lifted the axe to fight the Ilkin back in Empire Storms. And that he will be with her always. And I'm just like... I'm like, oh my god, he was such a dick at the beginning of Empire of Storms, and in Queen of Shadows he was just not very nice, and now he's like... all in love and adorable.
It's sweet.
And then he kisses her cheek and tells her he loves her again. And he's like, she can tell he's ready to, like, fall from the horse. But she digs her hand into his arm and refuses to let go. He can't flick her off. And Lorcan just knows that if he were to try and fall now, she would fall with him. Because she's got such, like, a death grip.
But also, if he let go and fell now, she would just stop the horse and have to get him back on the horse again. Because, like, she came for him. She's not just gonna
be like,
give up on him because he decided he wanted to fall off.
Thanks, sir. Thanks. I'm so sorry for trying to rescue you. Okay, bye.
Yeah. It's not very smart. So maybe that's why he doesn't do it, because he knows that she'll stop and have to go through the whole process again.
But, like, he knows now. Either they're both going to live or they're both going to die. So they just fly on Farasha, and they're even passing some of the Khagan soldiers as they run. Which is like, bye, suckers! Like, it's how I see ya. And that's when the dam breaks. So, oh no, they only have 1 minute. So Rowan it's now Rowan's point of view, so we go back to his. So he's watching them, like, he's watching everyone flee, especially Elide and Lorcan, when the dam breaks. And he thinks that him watching is the only thing that he can offer. He wants to witness their deaths so that he can tell their story.
Which just reminds me of that movie, Witness Me. Oh, Fury Road. What are they? Is that what it's called?
I don't know.
I don't remember. Have you not seen those movies? Oh, well, it's lost on you.
Is.
Furiosa is the...
Oh, the
what are they called?
Mad
Mad
Max.
Max.
Yes, I did
Yeah.
see Fury Road.
Yeah.
Not my favorite.
They all say "witness me" before they basically die.
It's been a while since I've seen them. Anyway.
Yeah.
They're not my type of movies.
No, that's fair. Sorry, I deterred us for a movie that's not the specific moment in Helm's Deep.
How dare you?
I know.
He wonders if he needs to get to higher ground. He's like, oh shit, like, will the keep protect us from the wave? Do I need to get higher? And
I guess mostly for Aelin,
yes.
Because he can just turn into a bird.
100%.
But this is another instance where you're like, are you not paying attention to your surroundings?
Because he just looks and Aelin is not there. He's like, oh shit, I need to get Aelin higher. But then he looks and she's not even with him anymore. And then he sees a brown rook. It's Borte's rook, Arcus, which I don't know how Rowan knows that, but whatever.
Maybe he can see Borte.
But that's the thing. Is Borte, it doesn't say anything about Borte riding the rook.
Oh, I assumed Borte was riding it and just dropped her off.
I'm just saying. Doesn't say.
Otherwise, did she talk to the rook and say, "Drop me"? Oh, okay.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because who would you get? Do you? Well, never mind. I was gonna say, do you think Borte would agree to that? And I'm like, yes, she would. Come on, 100%. Of course she would.
Well, also it's saving her people too. She's in that army. So.
Anyway, so Arcus has Aelin in his talons. And gets close to the ground and drops her, and she does a roll before she stands up. And she's right in the path of the wave. And obviously Rowan is very concerned.
To put it lightly. So,
she releases a pillar of fire, and the keep starts to shake, and the earth around Aelin starts to crack. And Kael's like, the hot springs! And I'm like, Kael, no one's talking to you.
Yep.
And I'm like, seriously, apart from the fact that there are cracks in the ground, what does the fact that there are hot springs have to do with anything? It doesn't make a difference. There are cracks in the ground now. Doesn't matter what's beneath them. So, Kael...
I guess she was able to crack it because of the hot springs.
Fuck off.
I suppose. I don't know.
Kael So, sorry, he aggravates me so much. So, the pillar of fire sucks back into Aelin, and Rowan knows immediately, I don't know how, but he does, that for the past 3 months, she has been tunneling into her power, which is why she hasn't really used it since they rescued her. Mm-hmm. And... Which you could kind of get in her point of view, because she was telling her fire to chill the fuck out a lot of the time in the beginning. Yeah. He also knows that this tunnel, her saving up her power, has actually been for Maeve's death blow. Mm. And he thinks back to her tunneling for 3 weeks, which was in fire?
No, wasn't it? Was it before? It was before the battle with Rolf.
Oh,
on the ships.
Empire of Storm.
So that's Empire.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So she's been tunneling. He just knows from experience. She tunneled for 3 weeks, and that was devastating. That amount of power. So he's like, geez, 3 months. He's thinking it could be catastrophic. So he just yells at everybody to get down. As the wave meets Aelin's fire. And Aelin just releases a tidal wave of flame, higher than the water. And when the wave meets the flame, it just turns to steam. And the steam is obviously blistering, it's capable of melting a person's flesh from their bones. So Rowan is like, well, shit, and he just throws his magic out there to try and, save the soldiers that are still on the field, because... if they get touched by the steam, they're still gonna die.
Now it's just... Yeah.
Instead of drowning, you'll be blistered to death.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like that
Worse.
is worse and slower and gross. Yeah.
So the fire and the wave continue, and Rowan feels a burnout coming because, like, he was using his power throughout the whole battle, so it's not like he has a ton left. And Hussar mentions that Aelin's power is no blessing. I guess she sees the enormity of it and sees, like, how much it is. And that causes Fenris to snap at her, like, tell that to your soldiers. Like, she's saving their lives right now.
Yeah.
And Rowan knows that Aelin is sacrificing Maeve's death blow to save an army that could be Terrasen's salvation. So she's choosing her people over her revenge, which just shows what a moral leader she is. Yeah. So Rowan's head is pounding, and from using his wind to disperse the steam, and finally the wave starts to lessen, and like he has a headache, he can taste blood in his mouth, and finally the wave turns to lapping, then to eddies, and then the water starts seeping into the cracks, and that's when Aelin starts to lower her flame. And like Rowan is so stretched that his knees buckle, but he does manage to keep a hold of his magic long enough to dissipate the steam from killing anyone. Yeah. So he looks out on the battlefield because I guess he couldn't really see Aelin in that wall of flame, but he looks over and he sees this final pillar of white hot flame, but like it's not flame, it's Aelin. And he's like, holy shit, she gave herself over to the flame completely. And everyone is in awe of her, and Irene just calls her Mala's heir. She says, Mala's heir. And it's like, we already knew that, didn't we?
Yeah, but also, she's her own person, and she's amazing in her own right.
Then we finally go over to Aelin's point of view. So she thinks about how she has delved into her magic for 3 months, while Maeve. I was trying to combine Karen and Maeve.
Yeah,
while Maeve and Karen has worked on her, and she managed to keep her power leashed even after she was released from the iron. So like the iron was actually helping her keep a leash on her power. And she said the strain has been enormous, which is why she found it hard to speak, and also why she put on that act of, like, the swagger, because sometimes that helped. Yeah. So this is sort of my problem. So that whole time that we were reading, and she wasn't acting like herself, and she was talking about, like, you know, giving herself up to whatever, and sacrificing herself, and everything like that, right? And how she wasn't acting like herself, and she was acting traumatized. It is now sort of being explained away as the strain of delving into her power, which I'm not crazy about.
Yeah, because she's still, like, that. I guess that can be a layer, but she was still traumatized. She was still worried that it wasn't real. Like, there's still those feelings as well.
But, like, my issue is that after this event, she goes very much reverts back to her kidnapped, tortured character. She starts acting like herself again. So, like, it's sort of like, oh, it was the delving into my power that made me act that way. It wasn't the fact that I was traumatized by being tortured for 2 months. You know what I mean? That was sort of, and I think I referenced it maybe in week 1 or even 2 of us discussing this book. I mentioned that, like, her healing process annoyed me, and this is sort of why. It's this bit that annoys me. Yeah.
No, that's fair. I get that. I haven't read ahead yet, so I don't really remember, but yeah, if she's just back to her pre-tortured self after this, then that doesn't really make sense.
No. Anyway.
So I agree.
So, when she saw the wave, and she saw Elide and Lorcan choosing death together, and she saw the army that could save Terrasen, she knew that she had to use her store of magic to save them all. So that was the reason, like, that was the reason they came to Annielle, was to help the people. Yeah. So she lets her power slowly ebb out, so, like, the glowing sort of leaves her fingertips, and it, like, works its way out of her extremities and sort of up her legs and back through her arms and whatever. And she says as it, like, fades, she feels like she's in a new body, a new Aelin. She can breathe and she could see again. Like, she has this clarity. So this is what I mean. So, like, it's like she burned away all... It's like excusing... It's like she burned away all that trauma.
Yeah. When, like... Yes, when you were in her head these past few weeks since she's been rescued, she, for sure, you could tell that she was struggling with her power, but she also was struggling with the fact that she didn't have any scars, that she didn't have her calluses, like, all of this stuff. And, like, we kind of jumped over all of the training. But by the time we got to the inn, like, she couldn't sleep. She wasn't, like, the training wasn't really helping her. It's not like that healed her. So, yeah, she's still, like, you would think she would still have trauma after this moment. Agreed.
So, she sees a hawk flying towards her, and when she finally stops glowing, she falls to her knees, and she feels someone scoop her up, and she passes out.
Fair.
And that's where we stop.
Which is kind of a good spot. We really lucked out there.
It is a good spot to end, because, like, you know, the battle is over. All of our peeps.
Everyone lived.
Still alive. Elide and Lorcan did not make it to the gate, but they didn't need to.
Yeah. But we don't, like, would he have lived if he was where he was, I wonder? I don't know where she ended up. Yeah.
And...
Is everything Elide did pointless because Aelin just outdid her?
It's like, how can we save Lorcan? I know. Like, Elide didn't even have to go out there, but she did. It's fine.
Yeah. And, well, that's the other thing, too, because Aelin, in her head, she's like, she saw Elide go out, and she was like, I've got to do something. And it's like, well, are you only doing this for Elide?
Yeah.
Or is it actually for the army and all these people that would die? But yeah. So I guess that's where we're finishing up this week. If you want to get in touch with us and share your thoughts on anything you heard in our episodes, or if you have any book suggestions, you can reach out to us by email at coffeeandcoread@gmail.com, or on Instagram or Facebook at coffeeandcoread, and coffee.coread on TikTok.
So next week we will be reading chapters 62 to 74 of Kingdom of Ash. So make sure to follow along, and if you're enjoying our chats, don't forget to follow, rate, and review wherever you get our content. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you on the next page.